and welcome back to the Contagious Victories Podcast. I am so excited to have a friend from the Heart Conference come on the show. I've got Samantha Tollison from Samantha Tollison Birth here with me as a guest today. Welcome to the show, Samantha.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. And yes, we did meet at the Heart Conference, and that was so much fun. It was so sweet. You and Dylan were both just super precious, and so I'm really glad we've stayed in touch and are still connected. And I'm just super excited to be here, and I am so grateful for the opportunity to share my love for what I do and my story.
Yes, well, thanks for coming on. Now, I know you capture birth stories by way of birth photography and videography. You've been doing it for a couple years now. Tell me a little bit about your story and what you enjoy about the work that you do.
Yeah. Okay. So, yes, I am a birth photographer and videographer. I've been photographing or documenting births for 4 years now. It's 4 years this month, and
Woo!
yeah, it's been super. It's been super fun. I started out with just photo. And have grown and developed my skills since then, and now I offer video as well. I am also doula certified, and so I bring that education and experience into what I do as well. As far as what I enjoy about my work, gosh, that's such a big question. One, like I am so passionate about birth, and so creating like the powerful images and films that just tell these like epic, beautiful stories. It's just so fun. Like to be able to use that creativity and um, do something so special with it and if I'm being honest, something so different. I love
Yes, it
that what I
is.
do is so different, and I love like just going at it with people who think that what I do is crazy, because I will just like dump my love and passion all over you until you agree with me. And so I love the shock that what I do brings. I'm not gonna lie, that part's pretty fun too.
I bet it
Um,
is. And the memories I'm sure that you give to the women that and men who are in it in that room in a different mindset, it sounds like those memories would be so just rewarding to be able to gift to people, when you go
yeah.
back and look at those moments for the women and the men, I can only imagine it being just like overwhelming and emotional, but you're there to capture both the beauty of it, the excitement of a welcoming a new life into the world, and just even some of the more painful moments of that, which we all know. Tell me what you overcame to get to where you are right now.
I mean, the ups and downs of life for starters. Different seasons of you know, poverty and trauma and mistakes and lessons learned. Um, and all of those things have led me to where I am now. Things I've overcome specifically would just be, one, I thought I like as a child I thought I was going to be a doctor. And
Mm.
I wanted to be an OB, and I wanted to specialize in pregnancies of multiples, and I was going to be this big fancy world-changing doctor.
Yeah.
That and then I
Well, the dream
discovered I
was
was
on your
afraid
heart.
of noodles.
Noodles.
Needles.
Oh, I
I
love it. You're
cannot
so
talk.
cute. You are so
um,
cute. I'm afraid
I'm
of noodles too, but
deathly afraid
noodles.
of needles. So, yeah, so that ended my hopes and dreams for being an OB really quick, and then I mean, in even midwifery, like I have zero plans to go to midwifery school or to be a midwife, because I just don't want to have to go through the schooling, honestly.
Well, it sounds like you love babies. So how is
Oh,
that
for
kind of
sure.
yeah, yeah. So how have you used that creativity and love and said, I know I'm afraid of needles, but I'm still going to be involved in this in some way, shape, or form. How has that, did it sneak up on you or is it something you pursued?
The best way I can explain it is when you are walking in your calling and you love something so much, those little things don't matter. When I'm in a birth and and a mom has to get an IV, or is choosing an epidural, or any of those sort of things, like when I'm in a birth space, like those blinders are on for the most part.
Mm.
I will say the only birth I've ever been kind of queasy at was my sister's birth. And so I think that was more emotionally driven than anything else, or more emotionally driven than fear driven. Um, just because I know her so much more intimately than I know my clients. And so her birth definitely made me a little bit more
Yeah, I can imagine
uneasy
that too. Yeah.
than my clients. Like with my clients, I can just shut off all of my own fears and things like that, and I don't get that attached to what's happening, I guess, in the moment. Another thing I have to overcome on the daily is that I also have a ton of anxiety when it comes to driving. I
Oh,
don't I don't like cars at all. I don't like being in cars. I don't like driving them. I don't like being around them. Like
that's understandable, but
I
unique
don't
to
like it.
okay.
But I have
So,
to suck that up and get
yeah.
over it because I have to drive all the time, all over the place. Like my clients don't, aren't always like in my town or like just down the
Oh,
road. Like I live in a giant metroplex. I live in the Dallas Fort Worth metroplex, and
yeah.
I take clients who are birthing, anywhere up to like 70-ish miles from me. I do try to limit it to really not any more than that. That's like the max, just because, I mean, it takes forever to get anywhere in a giant metroplex like this. So highways galore all the time. At first, it was a big struggle because I didn't know where any of these birth centers were. And so I was going somewhere I've never been before and having to drive it all out. I have to drive it all hours of the day and night in any type of
Oh, wow.
weather. Um, Under massive stress of like, okay, this client's in labor. Like, I hope I
Yeah.
get there. I hope I don't miss anything. What if I can't find a parking spot? What if I miss a turn? Like,
There's just
so
a
much
lot.
anxiety, so much.
Yeah.
So I constantly overcome, again, the fear of needles and the driving, and like I'm a super type A, organized, structured, plan ahead kind of person. And so being a birth worker forces me outside of that comfort zone and forces me to live in this just constant unknown. I
Huh.
mean,
That's so beautiful. You put
every
it so
sing yeah,
well.
every single moment of every single day is just completely unknown. Like, I mean, I could have to drop everything at a moment's notice all the
Well,
time.
I love the way you put that because I never would have thought that being a birth photographer would have that level of unknown because it seems almost the opposite. It seems like you know that you've got this girl, she's got to do this thing, and you just need to be there. But I do see where it would be a lot of, hey, we can't set a time and date because we don't
Yeah,
really know.
yeah,
Um, so you're kind of just available for those clients and
yeah,
you get to see the whole journey. And I wanted to know a little bit about how you kind of handle, not only I do want to know how you handle the tough parts of your business, but going back to the driving thing, how do you listen to some gospel music, or do you have a candle, or something like, you hear all these things about how to get over anxiety. What do you do in the car when you're on the way? Is there a routine that you maybe kind of helps you get out of that, or that helps get you on the right mindset to get to that hospital and stuff? What do you do? Elaborate on
yeah.
that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to backtrack just a little bit for anybody who's listening to this and is maybe just completely unfamiliar with what I do and has maybe never even heard of it before. Um, so, with being a birth worker, either doula, photographer, midwife, whatever, which if you don't know what those mean, let's just Google it because
Yeah, Google it.
I don't have time
Birth
for all of that
worker.
right now. So
Okay.
Google that. But any type of birth worker, it lives a life on call. And so for
Hmm.
every single client we book, which can range from one client a month to 5 to 10, like however many clients you feel comfortable taking per month, you go on call at 37 weeks pregnant for that client.
Okay.
And in the state of Texas, they can legally go up to 42 weeks pregnant without being in active before being in active labor. So that's a 5 week period. 37 weeks
Yeah.
all the way up to potentially 42 weeks. It's a 5 week on call window for every single client.
That makes the
So,
whole 8 hours wedding photography like, look, 8 hours,
right.
that's nothing. I'm 5 weeks. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
so
So currently
interesting.
I'm on call for a client who's due February 2nd. Um but I've been on call for her since 3 weeks before that. So for the last 3 weeks I've been on call. And she has not had her baby. Haven't heard from her. She's doing fine. We're all good. But I will be on call for her until she has that baby, potentially all the way up until, nearly Valentine's Day. And so everywhere I go, everything I do, I'm constantly ready. I have a duffel bag with clothes, shoes, snacks, money, anything I could need at a birth. And I have my photography gear packed all the time, batteries charged, memory cards, all the things. And I take them everywhere. And anytime my husband and I are going anywhere further away from home, we take two cars. Um,
Oh,
we're all like my whole family, their lives also revolve around the work that I do. It affects
wow.
everyone I know in one way or another. So yeah, it's a big deal. Being on call is a big deal.
It
Um,
is.
and
Yes,
so,
I
yeah,
imagine.
so you were talking about driving. Let me answer that question. I almost forgot. Um, One, I pray all the time.
Mm.
I'm like, and I'm not gonna lie and say that it's not still stressful. Like, by the time I get to the birth, I usually have a tension headache from like clenching my jaw. So I like catch myself like in the car. I'm like, okay, relax, take a deep breath, like, and I like have to like actively relax my face, and practice some of those skills that even my mamas are going to be practicing when I get there. Um, because again, yeah, it's so nerve wracking. Not only the driving, but also the like you're not there yet. And so like all I'm thinking is like, okay, like what's happening while I'm not there? What am I missing? Is everything okay? Like, and so I'm relaxing, listening to worship music for sure, and then just praying and giving it all over to God. I'm like, Lord, I just like make sure I get there on time. I make sure I get there in one piece. Like, please make sure that like my car doesn't have any malfunctions or like no flat tires. Like, just let me get there, Lord. Like first and foremost, and then while you're at it, if you could make sure the baby doesn't come before I get there, that would be super cool. Um, but just make sure I get there first. And then, sometimes I'll even jokingly tell him in my prayers, I'm like, I'll take a flat tire on the way home. It's fine. Just please, please, please let me get there before it happens. Like, whatever you do, I will deal with all, like, any of the things that have to happen. Just don't let them happen right now. Um, so, I don't
Well,
know.
that's good, that's
It
good.
works for me.
Well, that sounds like really good advice for getting from birth to birth, and when those pressure comes, there's gotta be a lot of moments in between those moments. So what do you do to incorporate fun back into your work week when you're not actually at the birth itself?
Yeah. Um, so I would love to also answer this question kind of in two parts. One
Okay,
being, as you asked, how I incorporate fun into my work week, but also how I incorporate fun into my work.
okay,
And so, in my work week, again, first and foremost, being this takes me back to my why I became an entrepreneur at all.
okay.
Because even if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, I would want to be an entrepreneur in some form or fashion. Because I desperately need the freedom to create my own schedule and to do ultimately what I want when I want, minus, being called to a birth, which again, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. So I'm
Exactly.
super on board for those. Um, so I make my own schedule. I do whatever I want. So my husband goes to work and then I have all day to just do whatever. So
But that's harder than it sounds. I mean, for someone who doesn't have a
yeah.
business, that's like, wow, whatever. But as someone who now, I mean, because I am a business owner, that takes a lot of focus to do whatever
Mhm.
you want. So, how continue? Sorry. I
Yeah.
just wanted to say that it
Yeah.
sounds awesome.
I
And it
mean,
takes a
but
very
it's hard.
special,
Like you said, it is hard.
yeah,
There are definitely
special
some
focus.
days where I fall short and I don't get off the couch and I binge an entire season of Law and Order. Um, it
I love
happens.
it. Yeah, totally
I'm
been
not
there.
I'm not perfect, but again, that luxury comes from the freedom of being able to run my own business, and that I have the freedom to do that. So
And the self awareness to acknowledge that's what you need, want. And I love that about you. So,
yeah,
okay, yeah. So
yeah.
go on.
So one of my biggest things is exercise.
Okay.
I work out with Camp Gladiator 3 to 4 days a week, mid mornings, and so I'm able to work out with the moms of CG, all the
Oh,
stay at home
cool.
moms who again are kind of living the same freedom to do whatever they want during the day kind of schedule. So I work out with all the moms. They bring their
Oh, that's fun.
strollers and their kiddos and they run around and play, and it's great. And I don't have to work out at 4 o'clock in the morning before my corporate job.
Mhm.
I get to work out in the middle of the day, and I love that. Yeah, so I work out a few times a week, and I have the freedom to network and lunch and foster my community and meet with other people, other birth workers, other entrepreneurs, other women.
Mhm.
I'm able to do things like this podcast. My own podcast is fun for me.
Yes.
It stretches me and challenges me and grows me and pushes me outside of my comfort zone, but also it's super fun and I love it. Um, so
That
there's
is
that.
really rad. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of how I like add more fun into my work week. You know, is again like being able to do things like work out, attend midday weekly Bible studies, attend
Mhm.
lunches and events and um, parties and meetings and co-working things, just all that sort of opportunity. Like, I have so much freedom to change my schedule and my plans all the time. And so that's what I do to make my week more fun.
Okay.
Um, and then there are a few things I love to do that make my work fun. So again, like on top of just like attending births is my idea of fun. I I bring along a Polaroid camera with me to each of my
Oh,
births. And so I take some Polaroid photos at every birth, which is really fun. But then my favorite part, as silly as this is going to sound, my favorite part of my work is this precious little baby counter shadow box thing that I have on my shelf in my office.
oh,
And every single time I come home from a birth, the first thing I do is add a bead to my box. So
wow.
there's
You can
yeah,
see it visually
it's
adding up, and is that
yes,
right there behind you? Oh, that's
yeah,
so sweet. I see it.
yeah, it's right
That's
here.
lovely.
And I
Oh.
made it myself. It's beautiful. Made it with my
Oh,
husband's
wow.
help. He put the hole in the top, and like it was a total vision, and he helped me bring it to life. It's got my logo on it. It's literally like one of my most prized possessions.
That is
I'm way more attached to it than I probably should be. It's
I
probably
was,
not healthy.
no, no, no. I was speaking to my husband about just little things like that, exactly like that, that the world would see it and say, "What, what is this? I don't understand the joy." Like how, but there's little things for me, and I was referring to my little ukulele. I'm like, this is just a block of wood to some people, but the
Mhm.
memories and the joy that that little block of wood or instrument, ukulele has brought me, no one understands it. Like if I was on,
Mhm.
if I could save one thing, of course, people and pets and stuff, but one thing, that's the thing that means so much to me. And I don't care if no one understands it. So I love that you have that visual thing, that it's not a
Mhm.
thing, it's a visual representation of those people, those families, those births, those moments.
Mhm.
And wow. And then to
Yep.
look forward to that. And the first thing you do, putting it in, and I can imagine that you get like an endorphin hit, kind of like,
Mhm.
oh yes, that's my why right there. Hearing that little
Yeah.
bead go in there.
It's so special, and every
Okay.
baby is in here. The one
Oh, I
like
see it. Yeah.
they're all in here. Um, so like yeah, it'll take me a long time to fill it up, but
I love
that's
that.
okay. Yeah, but it's so special to me. I love it. People ask me about it almost every time I share it. It's part of my brand. It's part of
It is. Yeah. I
it's
remember seeing it now that, sorry
yeah.
to interrupt again, but
No.
just between us, when I followed you for the first time, I think I do remember now that I've visually seen it. So it
Mhm.
is a part of your brand. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's like I said, it's a part of my brand. It's a part of what my clients and followers kind of expect from me, and so they know that when they see that bead drop, that I was at a birth, or if they see me posting behind the scenes photos from a birth, they know the bead post is coming, and they're all shared exactly the same way. I play the same song every single time I drop a bead, um, and it's counting every blessing. Um, and so, yeah, I shift the lyrics a little bit. If I'm dropping a white bead, then I share a slightly different like section from the song that I feel represents that moment a little bit
Yeah.
better. Um, but yeah, I it's one of my favorite things. It's so simple and so silly, but it is one of my very favorite parts
I
of
love that.
my work. It's super fun. It brings me so
Well,
much joy.
so I love both of those things that you just shared. visualization that you give yourself, that you give your followers, which you'll have to go and if you're listening right now, you'll have to go and follow Samantha. We'll share her stuff at the end and listen to her podcast, of course. And I also love that you make sure to have that time during the week, not only to just move your body, but to connect with other moms, other potential, clients, other people that you want to hear their stories and stuff so that you can better your work. Like I can only imagine that being able to network with and work out with your ideal client base is giving your business so much more value because you're able to hear directly from them and hang out with them and love on them and be friends with them and network
Mhm.
and stuff. So, and not to mention the uh, do you get a lot of word of mouth from just hanging out with them and going and like is that some the reason I bring that up is because I did a little Google search before our podcast interview and you were at the top. I just did birth photographer Texas and you came right up. So going back to that, it's just for as a business owner, there's so much value. I see it as an outsider looking in at all the ways that you're living your dream, you're doing what God has put on your heart, you're doing good business and you're networking and providing so much value for these mamas and families. So I can just see how much fun it is and seeing you drop those beads in. I'm gonna have to look out for that a little bit more now that I'm aware of it because I have seen it now that it just took a minute to be refreshed on that. But how fun. That is a great, both of those are great things that you've set up for yourself. Well, I do want to ask a little bit about what you've learned so far. Is that something that maybe you've learned so far is that you have to carve out those little things for yourself and make it unique to you? Or is there other things that maybe you've learned so far as a creative business owner that goes with your business?
I've learned a ton.
I mean, I imagine, but
So much, in so many areas. I will say yes to what you said before personally, like, I've definitely tried to learn or, and was told right from the get-go that taking care of yourself is important, and so rather than experiencing burnout and having to go back and start from scratch in taking care of myself, I'm hoping that I've done a good job of that already over the last few years. I've already established those self-care routines and those communities and those
Mm,
things that I need to keep doing what I do. I hope that those are already well established and that hopefully I am able to avoid burnout in the future. And then, as far as my creativity goes, as far as my actual work goes, I'm completely self taught. I've never taken a photography course. I don't have a photography degree. I've never taken a video course. I've never taken an editing course. Um, I've taught myself all of it. I bought my first camera at Costco in 2018
that's
with my
awesome.
hubby, and he was my model, and we traveled all over the DFW, like taking pictures. And I downloaded Lightroom, and I learned what a preset was, and I found a couple that I liked. And anytime I've wanted to add something or learn something or do something different, I just Google it
Yeah.
because I don't know, that's just what I do. And so, I mean, I've had a couple people come to me and they're like, "Oh, like where did you learn to do video? Like where did you learn to do that?" Or like, "Oh, this video is so great. Like how long have you been studying video?" Or like, "Where did you get your education in video?" And I'm like, "I googled it."
Yeah. That's awesome.
Like I googled what B-roll was, and I googled like how to do all the effects in Premiere Pro. Like anytime I want to do something a little different, like if I'm like, "Oh, I want the text to do this." So I'll Google and I'm like, how to make the text to do this in Premiere Pro. Um,
You
and then
gotta
I
get specific and
just
know what you're
follow,
looking
yeah,
for.
I just follow the steps as I go. And I'm like, replay the video and go back and forth. And then as far as birth work goes, I learned very early the most epic lesson I feel like in birth work that all birth workers need to know is that it's not your job to rescue your clients.
Mm.
Their birth experience, their birth outcome is not up to you. Your job is to support them and educate them
Oh.
in what they want or what is best for them. It's not your job to ensure that they have the kind of birth that you think they should have or that you would want if you were them. your job is to support them and guide them and educate them in what is truly best for them or what they want, whether it's what you agree with or not.
I noticed on your website you have a lot of resources, and that's
Mhm.
what stood out to me because I didn't expect that and I'm not a mom. I don't have I hope one day, God willing, to be one, but love women, love babies, have some beautiful nieces, but I've never gone through the journey of looking for a birth photographer. So when I was researching this episode and looking at your website, I was truly appreciative of all the amazing resources that you list that have nothing to do with birth photography, but have everything to do with the mothers and the birth itself and taking care of them. So I love that you think outside of just your business and that you are
Mhm.
very conscious of what they could need. And like you said, you're not directing them down any certain path that you wish that they would
Mhm.
go down, but you are still flexible and able to accommodate whatever they wish for their birth. And then also when things kind of go awry or maybe like not as planned, I'm not saying that it always does, but birthing, like we mentioned earlier, there's not a time or place. So when you are put in a position that it seems like you're very flexible and that you can move and help in other ways than just like snapping it. You know, you've been around as far as birth goes, you know, kind of like how you can help without directing it too much. So that's amazing. And I cannot wait for other moms who are listening to go and check those resources out because I learned a lot. And it was a little note I put down that I appreciated that you've given to all the mamas and the future potential clients out there for your birth photography business. So I just wanted to kind of add that little tidbit in there.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely consider myself a community driven person. And that shows, like I said, in my work too. Um, I'm always, sharing and connecting people with resources or other people. I'm like, if you're into this, here's this. And if you like this,
Yeah.
here's this. And have you heard about this? And do you know this person? And let's plug this person. And, yeah, which is why, again, my podcast is mostly interview based and interview a lot of different providers and different experts in different things because we all are different. We all have something different to offer.
And multiple levels too. Let's go a little bit into your podcast. Tell us about your podcast and where people can listen to it if they are wanting to hear your interviews and stuff after this
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, it's called the Birth in Focus podcast.
Okay.
And we view birth and business through different lenses. So I've interviewed student midwives, actual midwives, pelvic floor therapists, um, all sorts of different bookkeepers, all sorts of different people that affect or that have touched the birth world in some way. I also have a series where I interview moms, women who have had their birth documented um, by me or anyone else, and they share their story and their experience w- with a birth photographer and what those photos mean to them now. And yeah, that's been really special. That one's typically, for the most part, completely anonymous, so they
Okay.
don't typically share who their birth photographer was unless they just really want to. Um, because I try to keep that space open to for them to feel free to share positives and potential negatives
Okay.
as a learning opportunity
Yeah.
for other birth photographers, to hear like this client express, what they loved or didn't love about their experience and allow other photographers to grow from hearing that. So they know, oh, maybe my clients don't like that either, or oh, I should incorporate
Yeah.
that because that's so cool. Like, like they can learn from those interviews. It's
I
kind of like getting a peek into your client's mind, I
Yes,
guess.
that is what we are all about here. I'm hoping that the people who do listen to the Contagious Victories podcast and the people I've talked to say that that's the most beautiful part and the most appreciated part about the whole journey is that, with business, with life, a lot of times those contagious victories or those victory stories do have learning moments. And some of those moments, they're not the most joyous, but then at the same time, I do think the joy is always a part of the story. What is something you hope to learn by the end of 2024?
Yeah, I am really hoping in 2024 to up level the creativity in my videos. Because
Okay.
again, like I've said before, like I am self-taught, and so I know there's so much more out there. There's so many other like camera settings and equipment and gear and editing capabilities, in softwares and stuff. I know there's so much more that I'm just not even tapping into yet. And so I'm really hoping that in 2024, um, I will up level the creativity in my videos, in my birth
Okay.
films.
Do you
Yeah.
say mean for the videos that you deliver to
Hmm.
your families and stuff, or just like because I
Hmm.
know you create content and stuff too, or both?
I mean both,
Okay,
but mostly like, I mean, those videos that I'm sending to my clients, I'm also sharing on social media with permission and stuff. So, yeah.
that's awesome. Well, I have enjoyed learning so much from you today. And where can our listeners go to hear more about those stories, to see more of you, and to take in all that you offer this world?
Yeah. So I try to keep it super simple. You can check me out online at SamanthaTollison.com. You can follow me on Instagram or Facebook or really anywhere else. It's Samantha Tollison Birth. And again, the podcast is the Birth in Focus podcast.
The birth in focus. Okay.
Like camera focus.
Yeah, I like that. It's cute.
And you can find it really anywhere that you can listen to podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon,
All
iHeartRadio, all the
Okay.
things.
All the
Yeah.
things. I'll link it too in the show notes, and I'll also link her social media and website so that they are just a click away. If you are listening right now, you can just go and check her out. Just scroll to the show notes, and I'll have it all linked there for you. Well, Samantha, is there anything else you want to recommend or share with the audience here about business or about birth?
Um I mean, to just trust in in the process, and just to remember that where God's taking you is beyond your like furthest imagination,
Mm,
um and to yeah, pursue your dreams and find supportive people who believe in you and who believe in what you're doing, and who support you, because I wouldn't be able to do what I do without my community and without my family. Their support, especially my family, makes what I do possible. They're all always there for me, and they know that I'm always on call, and they know how hard my job is, and so they're never upset or frustrated or anything when things don't go as planned, because they often don't.
that's really good. And I imagine that the listeners are hearing that and saying, I know that I am giving myself excuses sometimes of like, someone would be upset with me or, I shouldn't do this." It's not like that, y'all. It is so not like that. Your family loves to see you happy and thriving and helping and adding to this world. So that is
Hmm.
so good advice, Samantha, and so just wonderful. I just am so happy to have you on. And
Yeah.
thank you for coming on. And if you haven't checked her out, then please, listeners, go check out SamanthaTollison.com. That can open up worlds of birthing information and creativity and inspiration. Because I know I've been inspired. I'm going to have to get me one of those workout motivation groups. Like, I'm going to have to find some little workshops or something to go and work out during the week, because that's knocking off two things with one little
Hmm.
action. So good advice. I'm taking that away from this podcast for myself, along with so much more. So thank you, listeners. Thank you, Samantha. And until next time, I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful week. Stay inspired and continue chasing your contagious victory story. Until next time.
Bye. Thank you.